Scales by Straight Outta Hobbiton. Chapter 3. Neighbors, Puberty, and Familial Ties. Ichigo's neighbor is known as Data. He hoards statistics, facts, variables, that sort of thing. He has also taken a liking to Shinji, who seems to particularly appreciate his collections on dragons. It's just cool to be reading about first-hand encounters, he defends when Kisuke teases him, especially since we're going to be living with 3 of them for the foreseeable future. Actually, probably just the one. Karen pipes up from her place on the blush rugs. Females tend to mature earlier than males, so we end up leaving the nest around 200 or so. Yeah. Dada has a treatise all about it. But still, that's 200 years of living together. May as well get acquainted with the basics. He pauses, looking slightly uncomfortable. Though, some of this stuff was a little unclear. What bits? Maybe I can help. Shinji is not blushing. I'd rather not talk to you about it, to be perfectly honest. Something like understanding and mirth makes Karen's eyes sparkle. You've been getting into the puberty thing, huh? Kisuke blinks. Puberty is what's making you go all red? He asks incredulously. It's confusing, Shinji protests weakly. All this, I just don't understand. Karen chuckles, flopping back against the rich red of the rug. Well, I doubt you'll feel any better asking Ichini, she remarks. Dada'll help you with anything you need, I'm certain. Yeah. And take Kisuke with you, would you? I'm sure he'll need to hear some of it, at least. I have no idea what you're talking about. Kisuke is equally uncomfortable talking about such things with Karin. On his pale face, it's distinctly more obvious. Shinji takes some comfort in that. So what's with it says here the dragons reproduce asexually? Data, when he is in his reptilian form, is roughly the size of a city block, with dull green scales and webbed claws. His human shape is not nearly so intimidating, small and gangly and bespeckled, with mousy brown hair and watery green eyes. His cave isn't nearly so comfortable for humans, but it does have somewhere to sit, which is all Shinji really wants while he's reading.
The development and maturation of Draco Orientalis,
he reads out, peering at the title.
A good choice, though a bit early to be reading Friends and Family isn't anywhere near this point in his development.
Kisuke frowns, leaning forward over the desk. Ichigo says that he was early to be skin-changing, but what do you mean by that? Data smiles.
Dragons begin developing sexually at approximately 600 years.
He explains.
Well, the first stage of this development is officially at 300 or so. When the nestling is large enough to care for itself and begin building a hoard, a dragon will barely contemplate finding a mate until much later. Regardless, a mate is not required for offspring. So long as a dragon remains in its reptilian form, it is essentially sexless, and reproduces simply by producing eggs via a secondary formation between the trachea and esophagus, commonly referred to as a dactylothecum tube. Oh. Shinji pauses. So, dragons vomit up their eggs? Essentially.
Gross.
It's not so bad. The eggs look similar to precious stones, and they're roughly the size of a soccer ball. In 600 years, it's the same as coughing up, a peanut. If this can be done, why did you mention mates? Kisuke looks a little uncomfortable asking the question. He fidgets with his cane, twisting her against the floor with quick, easy turns of his wrist. Data eyes him speculatively. Asexuality is the orientation of over 93% of the all-Eastern species and 64% of Western. Despite that, nearly 100%, and I mean 100%, of all fully matured dragons have or have had a mate. Functionality has nothing to do with emotion, and neither does sexuality. He tells them both. Like most species, we get lonely. Partnerships are a major part of the social hierarchy, and besides, sexual interactions and romantic interactions are not exclusive to one another. That much is a simple fact.
Data scratches his jaw thoughtfully with a long black nail.
I wouldn't worry about that in any case, he says with a nod to Kisuke. Even if Friends and Family does end up being in the 7% that enjoys intercourse, he won't be anywhere near that stage in his life for a long time. Actually, it's sort of gross of you to be thinking about him in that way. He's barely out of diapers compared to Dragon at this point of their lives. He taps the scroll under Shinji's hand. If you were a dragon, you'd be a pedophile.
Oh, don't worry. As a Shinigami, he's a pedophile too. Shinji says cheerfully, patting Kisuke hard on the back. Anyway, thanks, Data, for the lesson. Now, can you explain to me this volume on Dragon Legend?
I'm not a pedophile.
It's 4 o'clock in the morning, and that is the phrase Shinji wakes up to. Of course you're not, he grunts tiredly. You're just lusting after an admittedly handsome teenager who happens to be the son of one of your best friends. That's all. Kisuke's hand is bony, and it hurts when it makes contact with Shinji's bare stomach. Oh.
I'm not lusting,
Kisuke says, rolling over to face the other blonde.
It's not like that.
It isn't?
No.
Then what's it like?
I don't know how to describe it.
Try. Kisuke huffs and Shinji can see the barest outline of his hands coming up to cover his face.
I'm happy when he decides to sleep with me instead of the others, and happier when I think about the fact that he spends most nights in my room than the others. He says, him being in the same room with me makes me feel like the sun is sitting in my chest. When I make him laugh, it's like the sun's 3 times bigger than usual. It's like...
He sighs again.
I sound like a middle schooler with their first crush.
And you're keeping us awake, grunts a voice from the other bed. Come on, Urahara, can't you have this crisis when people aren't trying to sleep? Oh, shut up, Kensei. Shinji calls back lazily. If Ya and Mashiro can keep us up all night with your cuddle fest, Kisuke can have a moment to realize he's in love, the poor idiot.
Not just in love,
Kisuke mutters stiffly.
I don't want to... with him.
Is that all that's surprising to you? Shinji inquires, arching an eyebrow in the general direction of his friend's face. I can't recall you ever having a relationship that had any sort of physical aspect. At least as far as I know.
Yoichi-san.
Shinji snorts. Doesn't count. You were never in a relationship. You knew she never liked you that way, and you were more than okay with that. Am I wrong? That point exactly. He nods decisively. Now, if you don't mind, I'm going back to sleep. We could deal with your crisis in the morning, okay?
Okay.
Night, Kisuke.
Good night, Shinji-san.
Never in a million years did Ishin ever think that Ichigo would return to his bed after the age of 6. And yet here he is, curled around his father like a second skin, heavy and muscled and, wow, scaly. Masaki had the scales too. She told him it was a skin condition. To be honest, the closeness is a nice change from the cold words and occasional constant hits that his and Ichigo's relationship has become over the years. To know that his son isn't bitter. It's a nice thing to know, considering the secrets Ishin has kept from him. He supposes it balances out, considering the large, scaly secret his children have kept from him. Maybe now that most of it, never all, Ishin can't do that to him or himself, is out in the open, they can start functioning like a real family again. Yeah, that would be nice. End of Scales. If you enjoyed this recording or the content, feel free to leave a comment below or a review at the original story from the link in the descriptions. Thank you for listening.